Welcome to a special edition of the Savings Angel Show. I'm Josh Elledge, Chief Executive Angel at savingsangel.com, podcasting to you from the heart of the Sunshine State, Orlando, Florida. Now, food addiction is a problem for many Americans, and it can seem impossible to break free from it. I myself have absolutely suffered from this in the past. It's how I became an obese man, and thankfully, I've had a journey, and that journey allowed me to recover from it, but it was not an easy process. Now, in today's show, we're going to be talking with Sandra Elia. Now, Sandra successfully freed herself from food addiction, and she has lost more than 100 pounds, and she's on a mission to help others do the same. We crossed paths, and I knew in my heart that I absolutely wanted to share her story with you, and I wanted to share her solution and how she was able to break free, and now how she helps others break free of food addiction as well. So with that, we're going to go straight into my interview on this very special Savings Angel podcast. My interview with Sandra Elia from sandraelia.com. All right, we've got Sandra Elia from sandraelia.com. Sandra, you've become one of my good friends just simply because I'm such a fan of the work that you're doing. And it has to do with the topic of food addiction and the role that emotions play in how we consume food. And of course, the kind of the consequences of that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
So share with our Savings Angel audience exactly what your journey has been, what your story has been, and what brought you to this point.
So I have to take you back about 15 years ago when I was 29 years old and I was classified as morbidly obese. And I wish I could tell you that my eating and my weight was my only problem. In fact, it really touched every area of my life. Food addiction ran my life and everything was spiraling out of control. I was in a bad marriage. I was off work sick. I was taking care of my mother who herself was suffering from bipolar disorder and food addiction and everything. I just couldn't get a handle on anything in my life. I've been able to lose over 100 pounds and keep it off for over 14 years, which they tell me is statistically nearly impossible to do. Only 3% of the population is able to do that. And I believe my success is based on the fact that I treated my eating like an addiction. So I wasn't searching for the next diet or the next exercise regime or the magic cure that was somehow going to re-put my life together. I really looked at what I was eating and understanding whether I lost another pound or not. The food that I was eating was not only making me insane and depressed, but it was robbing me of my life and my health, and I couldn't do it any longer.
Wow. Well, first off, congratulations on your success. As someone, my audience may or may not know, I haven't really talked about it in a while. So I was pushing 230 and had lived my life. I lost all the weight. So I lost about 50, 60 pounds and have kind of stayed in the 180s, which is much more comfortable for me weight-wise since then. So congratulations on that. And I really want to talk, Sandra, about the prevalence of food addiction. And I think there's a lot of us who can identify with what you're talking about, but can you kind of help us further understand maybe what the definition of food addiction is? And I think, I think what everyone wants to know is, am I suffering from this?
Food addiction, the prevalence is more than we can understand. Statistically, we believe it's about 20% of the general population. And the reason is the food supply. We have to understand that our food supply has changed in the last 50, 70 years even, and it's being chemically engineered to be highly addictive. The food industry is $1 billion industry, and it wants the greatest share of your wallet. So it has an invested interest in the population suffering from obesity, because guess what? They're going to buy more of their products, and you're going to buy the products that are highly addictive. There's a reason why you cannot eat just one chip. They were manufactured that way. So you can let go of the guilt and the shame, because understand that if we pull back the curtain, these foods aren't actually foods. These ultra processed foods are drugs, but we've all been brainwashed. I say it's the most legalized drug out there. Junk food, fast food, it's available 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and it's marketed as love and targeted to our children. So what is food addiction? Food addiction is a chemical dependency on certain foods, generally sugar, fat, salt, and flour products. And over time, people develop a physical craving for these foods. And once they start, it's very, very difficult to stop. And the hallmark of food addiction is if you have consequences that you desperately don't want, but somehow you still cannot stop eating them. And those consequences can look like diabetes, loss of mobility. It's affecting your relationships. You hate being in your body. You have all these consequences you know are directly linked to your eating. And there is just you can't stop and you don't know why.
So what is the solution? We talk about this food addiction. There's no stigma to eating junk food, really. We treat ice cream and snacks and unhealthy foods as rewards.
That's right.
For a job well done. And when in fact, it's actually pretty harmful for us, particularly if we're rewarding ourselves on a regular basis.
For sure. And I feel that food addiction, there is a big stigma with it because most people, and especially healthcare providers, look at it through the lens of their own experience because we all eat. And hey, don't we all enjoy cookies? Or, sure, wouldn't we all love to eat a giant pizza and lay on the couch all day? But I don't. I have self-discipline is what I would hear. And I would think, you know what? I don't want to lie on the couch and eat pizza all day either, but I can't stop and I don't know how. So that's, one barrier that we have to get over because most people, when I share that I'm a food addict, will chuckle and say, ha, 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 me too. And I'm like, no, you don't understand. It almost robbed me of a life. And so like with most addictions, you have to identify what your drug is. And you have to stay away from it just one meal at a time. And the thing with food addiction, it's tough because we do need to eat. And who can eat perfectly? Like you can perfectly stay away from crystal meth and you can perfectly stay away from cocaine. But with food, eating perfectly can be a challenge. So it's about taking it one meal at a time, identifying what is food and what isn't food. So having a shift in perception, because I don't want to live in this perception that I'm being deprived, that I don't get treats, that everybody else can indulge and enjoy except for me. No. I look at those things as food-like substances that will rob me of a life and kill me slowly so that I don't have a longing for them. And I eat food that is actually food. That will actually, I can feel satiated because it's got fiber and it's got protein and my body knows what to do with it. This other stuff, this food-like substances, my body will never stop because it doesn't recognize it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Sandra, I'm on your website and it's really amazing, for people to imagine someone who has lost 100 pounds. You have a before and after picture right on your front page here. And it is just amazing to see that transformation. But I think what's really exciting is this community that you've built and that you're out there changing lives and you're working with a number of doctors. You're really doing great work in the world. And I'm wondering if you could kind of share about the community. And by the way, for those who want to see this, let me spell Sandra's name. So it's Sandra, Sandra, and then Elia. And that's ELIA.com. Did I get that right?
Yes, you've got it. I've been fortunate to break through the barrier and partner with medical doctors. The medical community isn't ready to fully accept food addiction, but I've been able to partner with one of the top obesity doctors here in Canada and one of the top addiction doctors, at least in Ontario, and build some programs. And the way that I was able to bridge that gap is that my program actually has no downside. There's no risk. There's no risk to eliminating all processed foods from your diet. There is no risk to developing spirituality and mindfulness, cleaning up your relationships, having healthy boundaries with family, understanding what to do when intense emotions bubble up to the surface and we're not going to use food to cope. It's a program that really everybody should be on. We should be teaching our children this because of our toxic food environment, setting them on this path to see the truth about how to live life and use food in its rightful purpose.
And very specifically, Sandra, you actually have a a small group that or a group that you're going to be leading at the end of May. So depending on when you're hearing this, you better jump on this. Can you share a little bit more about that group?
For sure. It's called the Food Addiction Recovery Group. And I do it generally in medical clinics, but I started doing it over Zoom. So this is to allow more people to join in from all over the world and not have to travel. The program it starts off, each week has a different theme, but we start off first week, I hand out a meal plan specifically designed for food addicts. And this meal plan is powerful on two fronts. First, it helps to stabilize hormones. And when you stabilize insulin in particular, people achieve something called appetite correction, because most food addicts will tell me that they have this voracious appetite and they just can't manage it. And the truth is, what we've now learned is insulin will block leptin. Leptin is an important hormone that tells your brain to stop eating when you're full. I used to think that my full switch was broken. I honestly used to say that, before we understood the brain and these hormones. I just said my full switch broken and it's going to be broken forever. No, what was happening was all the insulin, and we know that sugar and flour raises insulin through the roof, was blocking that message from ever getting into my brain. And this meal plan helps to extinguish cravings, because at the end of the day, when you decide you're going to put your drugs down, what are you left with? Cravings and urges. And then we go on to talk about the science of food addiction. I teach a great CBT 3-step trick, or, a behavioral modification tool that helps you deal with cravings. And eventually what happens is those neural pathways get weakened over time and the cravings become less and less intense. And, in early recovery, they're demanding, they're strong, those cravings pound you down. And then over time, when that neural pathway just diminishes, they become little whispers, things that you can manage easily. Spirituality is another big component of this program, because you can't trust your thinking when it comes to eating, right? Our mind will deceive us. Our mind will tell us we're hungry when we're not. Our mind will say, hey, you know what? The diet will start tomorrow. And if the diet's going to start tomorrow, well, I might as well eat everything I can get my hands on today. And so that's why we have to circumvent our minds, this crazy making machine that sits in my head, circumvent it and go spiritually to the center where I'm at peace, where I can make good decisions. So the whole program is very holistic. It's 8 weeks. It's Monday evenings, and I have a special offer for your listeners. Regular price of this is $200. But for anyone who emails me with the subject line Savings Angel, you'll receive 50% off. So this program for you is $100. You're going to be sitting in this Zoom room with people who paid double what you paid. But because you're listening today and you act on it today, you will get 50% off. So you would email me. You can do it through my website at Sandra Elia, ELIA.com. Or you can email me at contact, so that's CONTACT at Sandra Elia, SANDRAELIA.com. And again, remember, just put in the subject line Savings Angel to get 50% off.
Oh, Sandra, that's so wonderful. The reason I really wanted to have you on is because I have people that I love that I know are so impacted by emotional eating. I personally, how did I get to my obese weight? It was absolutely emotion, whether it was celebrating or, trying to fill another need in my life. That's exactly what drove me to do that. And I love that you're taking this approach that I just think is just so much more effective. I think you're going to help so many good people. And I'm so grateful that you're willing to reduce your cost by 50%. My audience loves great savings. So that's phenomenal. 8 weeks at $100, over a Zoom call. I know that this is going to change lives. And of course, that starts on May 28th. So SandraElia.com, ELIA.com. I'll be promoting this in our social media as well to make sure that they zip you that message so that they can get that discount. Thank you so much for doing that. And I'm so honored to be a part of, changing and improving some lives out there. Obesity I can speak from personal experience. It sucks.
Yes.
And I'm sorry to
in a word. Yes.
That's strong language for my show, by the way. But I really mean that. It really, really does. So thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for the lives that you're changing, Sandra. And I'm so excited to be able to share this with my audience. So thank you so much for joining us, and make sure that you join 8-week program to help you curb your own food addiction, and as well kind of really look at all of the emotional issues that surround the way that we eat. Sandra, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. And thank you, Josh, for all the work that you do in this world. And, I love working with people like you because you'll have a beautiful ripple effect in the world. You put out a lot of good stuff, and you'll never understand the impact that you have on everybody around you. So thank you.
I'd like to thank Sandra Elia of sandraelia.com and her generous discount offer to Savings Angel fans. She doesn't offer this to anybody else. You'll need to hurry in order to get the 50% off to attend Sandra's food addiction workshop at the end of this month. Just email contact@sandraelia.com, and that's SANDRAELIA.com. With the subject line, you have to put this in the subject line, Savings Angel. We don't have an affiliate relationship. This isn't that kind of thing for me. This is something that I really, like when I talked to her, I knew immediately I wanted to do this special episode as quickly as possible. It was very, very generous of her to cut her price in half, but she heard my personal story and I heard hers, and I asked if she would be willing to do something very special for our audience. And so I'm so grateful that she's extended this offer. I hope that you'll join. I hope that if you know somebody who just can't seem to shake their struggle with weight loss, I hope that you'll share this with them. Hey, with that, I want you to have a wonderful week full of saving more, earning more, and living more abundantly. And with that, thank you so much for listening.